Super Saturday awaits Mr. YouTube himself. Squidge!
Hi!
Is that the nicest compliment you've ever had?
Razzie Erasmus said, compliment to this man, he understands the game and very, very funny.
Game recognises game. Team Aitchison or Team Harrison?
I'm going England by... I'm afraid.
Whoa!
Yeah.
I've never met her, but my impression I get is that Marlie Packer plays her best when she is angry. You know, France's scrum is the one area I think where one team can go, no, we can get completely on top here. Like,
if France can get their noses ahead, kick some penalties, it might stay closer for longer.
Welcome back to The Good, the Scaz and Rugby, brought to you by Vodafone. Super Saturday awaits. England versus France at Allianz Stadium in Twickenham for a Grand Slam finale to this year's Guinness Women's Six Nations. Fifth place, Scotland. They host third place, Ireland in Edinburgh. Fourth place, Italy host Wales, who will be looking not to make it 2 consecutive years with a wooden spoon to show for their efforts. To unpack it all, Katie Daly McLean.
Hello.
Whoop, whoop. The lady from the BBC. She joins us. It's lovely to have you.
Don't lie.
I'm not lying. It is really nice.
It's so lovely that you didn't even wave to me on Saturday. Isn't that bad? It's like, Elma, Elma. And then I put my hand slowly down.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I was
Completely.
admiring you from afar.
No, you weren't. You rolled your eyes and looked away. I saw it.
The man is back from the continent, bestie of the show, spends all the time reviewing the on-set catering for matches.
I mean, it's taking the mick out of itself now. 3 courses, pork terrine, chicken thing, some flambéed, immaculate creation. I just, as soon as I walked into that room and saw it all when we were in, where were we, La Rochelle or Brive, it's all blending into one. I was like, GSR are not going to believe this.
Yeah.
Wine on the tables, 11:45 a.m. Yes, I did.
Nicholas Aidan Heath, the Queen of Tooting, has returned to the sofa. It's great to have you here.
Lovely to be here.
And we are super lucky to be joined for the first time ever in our house by Mr. YouTube himself. He's got 256,000 subscribers on one of his channels.
Yeah.
Because, you know, he has multiples. Squidge, do I call you Robbie for today?
you are welcome to call me anything I like. I'm just happy to be here.
The last time we saw you was at our live show in Cardiff.
Yeah, last year in Cardiff.
Yes.
Yeah.
It has taken way too long for us to actually get you over here.
I want to thank every female rugby player in Britain and Ireland for being unavailable today, for opening the door for me.
We have worked our way through the entire to-do list and we were like, what is missing? Some insight. So we are going to be bringing you some analysis.
About rugby.
Some real,
true.
I mean, we're going to be talking about the sport for a change, which is quite nice. KDM, did you see the beautiful signs that all of our friends of the show made and brought to Leicester for us? I'm holding this up for the audio listener. One said, Scaz, she knows her chinos, which is gorgeous. Can we also have a moment for the fact that Mo went and fetched all these signs from all of the friends in the stands, piled them up on the pitch, and then when we said to her, where must these go now? I am losing my battle against the signs. She said, you can take them to studio. She left Matty Hollywood's Welford Road by vehicle in a car. Shira and I schlepped them onto the train, and then producer Shira brought these here today on the tube.
Oh, that's
R.I.P.
commitment.
to her commute. This sign said, you are monumentous, Mrs. Frankfurter, which is one I absolutely love. Do you know the Frankfurter joke?
Vaguely. One of the things about dipping in and out of this podcast is you miss 1 week and there's 4 in jokes that you're not up on.
It's totally true.
Yeah.
It needs some crib sheet, if almost. But right,
Yeah.
Someone brought a double-sided poster, which I love. The one side says, my favorite try is a pick and mo.
That's very good.
Okay. Yeah.
Very smart.
Yeah.
And then my personal favorite all time of the day is who's the real tit, and then a picture of Mo and KDM and Meg and me and Scazzy and a blue tit in their murder.
That's excellent.
Didn't get on the BBC, that one.
No.
Didn't show any of them. I was looking as well.
No one made it on.
No.
Not even producer Shira's really high-end Cappuccino.
It's a bit more Cheerios, that one, isn't
or
it?
donut-like.
Yeah.
So we really appreciate all of the love. We're gonna have to do this poster thing at Twickenham again. So if you can get your poster on the Beeb, then we would love to feature you on the show and celebrate you. But everyone who brought us posters for Shira to be carrying around on the Underground in London, 10 out of 10 for you for that effort. So it was absolutely Baltic, but at least the grass was very nice because everyone kept on talking about how great that pitch is. And then the performance was exceptional. You had Donna Kennedy on the continent.
I did. Yes, we flew over to Parma together. Enjoyed a little bit of Italian cuisine on the Friday, and made our way to the Stadio Sergio Lanfranchi on Saturday. My Spanish Sky colleague came in, sitting down on the cigar as usual. A lovely thing to do in a working environment, that I find. So I made it pretty clear within about the first 5 minutes of being next to him, through movements of body and whatever, to the point that he eventually tapped me on the shoulder and went, "Shall I put this out?" And I went, "Maybe that's a good idea."
Next time, why don't you just say it is offensive? Please put it down.
I did that in a British way, Elma.
Sorry, it's the
That's how
British
that-
way.
That's how that works.
I have to write my life in the UK test soon. I wonder if this is going to be in there. How do you, in British polite language, get someone to put out?
If this is based on this, and you are screwed.
I am in so much trouble, guys. I'm doing serious studying. If you are catching up on a few things like I am, but on women's rugby specifically, then the big news that you might need some context on this week that everyone has been flipping out about is Portia Woodman-Wickliffe. Dun, dun, dun.
Bum, bum, bum.
She's going to be playing for the Black Ferns, probably at Rugby World Cup 2025. Why, if someone has just pulled up a chair in the last 6 months, Robbie, is this such a big deal?
Well, this is the equivalent of Jonah Lomu putting aside, his kidney problems and going, "Actually, I'm fine. I'm going to play." Like, this is possibly the greatest winger the women's game's ever seen. I think that's probably fair to say.
Yep.
But it's also the greatest try scorer the Rugby World Cup, both men's and women's, has ever seen, because she has scored more tries at a Rugby World Cup than
anyone else.
Goat Central. We are talking
Brian
Goat
Habana
Central.
and
better
and
than
Lomu
Jonah.
himself.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And also, I think the best part of this is she went off injured in the first half of the last World Cup final, and she gets a little bit of unfinished business there. Come back and try and perform and try and perhaps write her own ending to the fairy tale after it's taken away from her at the end.
Yeah, she's been smashing it in Super Rugby Apiki and playing quite a bit of 13, interestingly. She's been on really, really good form. We've been getting a little bit of insight from our friend Alice Soper, who's been keenly asking the question on her podcast about, surely Portia's going to come out of retirement. Surely she will. Oh, look, she has. I did mention when I saw that news come out, I just imagined international wingers the world over sat there on Monday night just looking at the phone going, "Oh, God." just
Not
every
her
single,
again.
Yeah, every single one of them going, "Oh, really?"
But it all came from a move to rugby league, fell through to the women's NRL, fell through. And so she ended up, as you said, playing Super Rugby, was outstanding in that, and went, "You know what? I think I've got a bit more gas in the locker."
Yeah.
And who can argue with it? Because again, try scoring rate, form has been exceptional. From any clip, from anything you see from this performance, you say her playing 13 is the interesting part of this.
Yeah.
Because again, Stacey Walker's likely going to be back again ahead of the World Cup, so you've got a bit of battle there. Are you going to be looking potentially moving them in? Moving these players around. How are you going to fit them all into a back line?
Yeah. Who's the casualty if she is the winger?
Yeah.
A Ruby Tui's days numbered?
Yeah.
All these kind of things. I mean, someone big's going to fall if Portia Woodman-Wickliffe is taking the place on the field through that World Cup campaign.
Imagine bringing it off the bench, though. Like, you've got 20 minutes left. You're one score in it. I tell you what. Off you go.
Yeah.
See what you
disgusting.
I'd just move Sarah Byrne out to the wing. Just go on then. If that's what you're going to do, we'll do this.
What is great about this is is it her third or fourth Rugby World Cup then? But the fact that she's had the opportunity, because there's only a 3-year turnaround between the delayed 22 World Cup and this one, means that she gets to see this chapter of the women's game while still playing, and not just being, an ambassador on the side of the pitch or being a broadcaster on the side of the pitch. Why are you looking at me
I'm
like
not
that?
looking at you. Let's look at that fish
why are you
behind
pulling
you.
that face, Katie Daly McLean?
You just said it with a bit like, oh, broadcasting, those players going into broadcasting.
It was not a slight on you.
Oh, isn't
at
that
all.
okay?
Also, 2025 World Cup, 2027 Lions Tour, New Zealand.
Dun, dun, dun.
No way.
She'll only be 34.
Wow.
She's younger than Scazzy and Mo, right?
She is, yeah. I mean, and I am well aware I'm now talking about age because one of the things that I was really pleased about, Ricky Swinnell did the piece for Rugby Pass about Portia's retirement or anti-retirement, and not a single mention of her age. And I know a certain scrum half around these parts that's sick of people mentioning age in articles when it's not relevant, when it's people just wanting to be the best version of themselves they can be. And so I thought that's really cool that actually Ricky hasn't mentioned her age. And I thought I am now weirdly curious to just find out how old Portia is, and looked it up. She's 32. I was like, well, no wonder she hasn't mentioned it.
It's not relevant.
Really not relevant. I mean, it seems to always be mentioned with anyone, say, over 30. And unless someone is 45, it isn't relevant. But yeah, Portia is still younger than I thought she was.
She has openly talked about wanting to have babies next year. And we have seen a precedent recently of someone going off and having a baby and coming back and doing
Mental.
crazy things. So she might unretire again. I mean, who knows? She might be the Victor Matfield of the women's game.
But how cool is that? Like, literally now that the girls have that opportunity to be like, oh, you know what it is? I'm going to go, I might think about starting a family, I can have a family. And actually, I feel great, I'm going to come back and play. Like, previously, there was never that opportunity.
Yeah.
So it's awesome that I think you have that freedom now to think, look, if I can go back and get back and bring the kids with me, brilliant.
Yeah.
On the topic of broadcasters and people who work on the sidelines, the route that Robbie, you have taken with Squidge Rugby into rugby is proof that if you want to make content, make content. You don't have to be on the BBC. You don't have to be appointed. You do not have to have an agent land you a gig. You can also just look at the marketplace and go, do you know what would be really cool is if someone actually did this? And then the someone is me. So I had watched some of Robbie's work. I don't even know if I've ever told you guys the story of where I met him the first time. On a sidewalk in Tokyo.
Just on the street.
Yeah.
Just on the street, yeah.
Yeah. We were busy filming for this show that I did for World Rugby out in Japan, in Tokyo. And I spotted him from a mile away and I went, Squidge! And he just whipped around and he was like,
Hi. Hello.
Hi, shouty lady.
Because I'd seen the camera and I'd seen you walking by and I kind of went like, that's the walk up, okay. And I was sort of walking in that direction and then, there we were, showing up. Because I think we'd spoken briefly on the internet.
Yes.
I'm sure you've heard of it.
Yeah.
Before that.
Yeah.
And then, there we happened to be in the street. Tokyo, famously small city. So people do bump into each other all the time.
What are the chances that you'd run into a squidge in the wild on a sidewalk in Tokyo while actually busy filming? But there might actually be footage somewhere on someone's hard drive of me just mid-sentence, like clocking him. And Squidge down the street as elegantly as she does.
You should have recorded that and made that the little jingle at the front.
At the starting
rather
first
than
set,
just have that.
I only ever did one take of that.
Did you?
I literally did it once and I was like, no, I nailed that. That's good.
Can you do it live?
I don't think I've done it since.
Oh.
This would be an exclusive.
Oh.
Something along those lines. That's all, it wasn't the same. Again, I was younger then. I could hit the higher notes. You know.
How much younger? When are we talking? When did this happen?
Yeah, so 2018 I started. So I was 22 when I started it. I'm now facing 30 very hard. Coming very fast.
It gets better when you get older.
It's amazing how close I am now to, Portia, Woodman-Wickliffe. Like, I'm about to have my age mentioned in those articles.
But what were you doing?
What was I doing? Just milling around. I mean, a lot of it started because I accidentally got a job I didn't like, where I very much like tripped over and fell into a job where I'd graduate. I graduated my degree. I did a master's, which I specialised in teen movies because I wanted to be extra unemployable. And
you what?
I did my I did my master's.
South African auntie didn't understand. Try again.
My master's, I did it on teen movies, like coming of age movies, because I didn't want to get a job ever. And I thought this is the best pathway into that.
A master's degree in movies aimed at teenagers.
Well, like about teenagers, like coming of age, like Pretty in Pink, Breakfast Club, etc.
So good.
How many did you watch?
So many, in the hundreds.
And what was your favourite?
Oh, favorite team. Oh God, that's a good question.
Surely you have that answer up your sleeve.
Yeah, no, because I could just talk for hours.
Mm.
The Boyhood's the first thing that comes to mind. Oh, which I love, which is obviously the thing that was shot over 12 years.
Yes.
Which is amazing. Yeah, and I think because it was the year I grew up in as well, like really hit there. Mean Girls. Mean Girls is great.
yeah.
Clueless.
Yeah.
Clueless.
Clueless is so good.
But what
It
was
stands
your
out
master
endlessly.
plan? I mean, I know you're joking and saying you wanted to be unemployable, but what did you think you were going to do with this master's degree?
I don't think he was joking.
The
was
dream
serious.
was always filmmaking. That was always what I wanted to do.
Ah.
And like, one day, hopefully, maybe we'll see. But that
That
was always the
Edgar
goal.
Wright, basically.
Yeah. And that was always where I was hoping to go. And I had a bunch of sort of side projects going. Are you asking a question?
Yeah, I've got a question.
Yeah.
Sorry, because it's totally unrelated to rugby. But do you want to produce teen movies?
I'd love to.
Okay, cool.
I'd love to, right? And
Even
that was
better.
my
Oh, wow.
specialism. Yeah.
Have you got an intro to make here?
No. But I really love them. They're like
Okay.
Disney and teen movies. Mean Girls, classic.
Yeah. No, it's so good. So
A
good.
cameo. Yeah.
One day, no, we'll talk afterwards. But I had a bunch of like, I guess side gig. I'd been doing stand up. I'd been doing like a live show that had been going okay. I'd done another podcast that didn't work at all. I'd done a bunch of stuff and none of it was working. None of it was landing. And everyone I was doing it with kind of moved away at once. Like a year or so after we graduated university. And everything fell apart. And I accidentally ended up in a job where that I was not suited to or good at. Where I didn't intend to get it. I was sent by the job centre to get some information on jobs from UPS. Maybe I shouldn't name them, but I have.
A courier company.
Yes, a
Oh,
courier
wow.
company, 3 letters. That gives you 2 options there. And I was sent, like, they were like, oh, they've got some jobs going, perhaps go and pick up a leaflet from them. I arrived and they said, are you here for the job interview for UPS with the courier company? And I said, the what? And so they took me through and they sat me down, they brought me into the room, and the lady said, so you're the only person that's turned up, so you've got the job. And we were talking about British politeness, and I felt too awkward to just go like,
No, Robbie.
no, I don't want the job. So I worked for UPS for 3 months.
No.
Off the back of feeling too awkward to turn it
Robbie!
down.
Did you have the uniform?
The full uniform, everything. Yeah.
You drove the van.
So there was a guy in a van who ran around who exclusively wore shorts, and I would hop out and just deliver packages. And I did that for 3 months, and I am not made for heavy lifting. Like there was,
wow.
there was a pandemic in which I discovered pasta and gained, quite a bit for, people watching on the video will be able to tell. But like back then I was incredibly skinny as well, not made for heavy lifting. There's a lot of like struggling to get things upstairs. And during that period, I just I was hating it. I was not enjoying it. I was not made for it at all. And I sort of, in my head, kind of put together the first video. I was like, well, what can I do that requires no one else? And I went, we're using archive footage. And I always wondered why no one was doing, like YouTube stuff around rugby. And so I thought, well, is there an opportunity there? I'd written a couple of pieces for a, rugby blog, Blood and Mud, that had done pretty well and had landed. So I thought maybe there's, some people would listen there. And I kind of wrote the first video in my head. First day I was able to, I quit. I felt less awkward by that point. And yeah, made the first video, had sort of a month or so before I'd managed to get an old job back. And made the first video in that time, put it up, and yeah, here I am now, several years later, with you looking at me incredibly intensely.
And it is
She does that.
It's mind blowing to me that you didn't have the heart to say no, thank you to a job you genuinely didn't want. But then, luckily, it drove you to this point.
Literally drove me, around Derbyshire, and to this point.
And then it dropped you off at the intersection of YouTube and rugby stardom.
If you can call it stardom. Yeah. So I mentally kind of wrote that video, sat down and wrote it like literally in a few days after quitting, after finishing. Made it, sat down, and I remember finishing and feeling like, oh no, I feel really good about this. I feel really happy with this. Put it up, and again, like the stuff I've been doing before that, like I'd be lucky if 200 people saw it. And I put it on the Rugby Union Reddit, and like this is the secret sauce, the Squidge Rugby stuff taking off is because I was sad and lonely. I was incredibly active on the Rugby Union subreddit, and there were a bunch of people I think who recognized me and took a chance on like watching the video, and people were like, oh, this is all right, this is okay, and it then took off from there, and I started making more and more, and
So the audience grew from Reddit to begin with.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
That's
So it's very much that,
brilliant.
yeah.
Because I think you'd been going a couple of years before someone said to me, "You have heard of Squidge, haven't you?" And I wasn't doing enough hanging around on YouTube at the time. I was like, oh. And like, this is a huge audience that I don't know exists anywhere. And an awful lot of people I know are not talking about Squidge, which means a lot of people can't have been aware at that time as well.
Yeah.
And then it felt like over about 6 to 12 months, everyone who was everyone was like, and we now know who he is.
And that was it, like a few months into doing it, just to give the full origin story. But like, I made a video on Sam Warburton retiring, the former Wales men's captain. And he then shared it, a few hours afterwards.
Wow.
And I came out the cinema, seeing Mission Impossible, not a team movie, unfortunately. But, there you go, same difference. And turned my phone back on, and I got my phone couldn't load the notifications I was getting. Because at that point I still had notification from YouTube on, notification from Twitter and everything. And the one I did see was my brother just saying, Sam liked your video. And Sam Warburton has shared it and said like how much he enjoyed it. And this was like a week after he retired. I made this video kind of in tribute to him and kind of gone into like some detail on, his playing style or whatever. And yeah, that kind of led to, I think, things blowing up, I think more centrally. And it was not long after that I was able to sort of take the chance of going full time. And
I was going to say, because I met you in 2019, so you had basically been doing this for about a year.
Yeah.
And you managed to come to Japan, and this is how quickly life can change. You can be rolling around in a UPS outfit trying to get packages upstairs and be in Japan just about a year later after Sam Warburton gives you a tiny little bump in awareness. What's been the biggest ever, most viewed, most popular? And did you know before you hit publish this was going to be the biggest, most viewed, most popular?
Great question.
Because it's that alchemy.
Yeah.
Have you figured it out? Have you hacked the system? Are you the oracle?
That was a nickname given to me by Anthony Watson, which is another surreal thing. The oracle. That's another surreal element of this from the last few months. But it's funny because those are two separate questions, and the answer to one is yes, and the other is no.
Okay, which is which?
And I think in terms of like, do I know what's going to perform? No,
St.
like
Evans.
yeah. But yeah, sometimes you put together a piece and you're like, well, if it's on the Springboks men winning, I know it will do well. Like that's the one safe bet in rugby content, I think. But then in terms of the most views we ever got was just me, the video on the 2019 World Cup final. And it is the one time that I wrote a lot of it in a pub in Derbyshire, near where I used to deliver packages. And I remember like writing most of the script, and I walked home, and it kind of hit me on the way, and I like literally put the laptop down on my kitchen table on the kitchen surface, and hacked out the rest of it. And it's the only time I've ever done this in my life that I like punched the air because like I knew I got it right, like I knew I'd done it.
Love it.
And I've never had that like either side. But I was like, oh, like this is. You kind of knew it's on the World Cup final. I kind of knew like it was going to be one of the biggest audiences I'd ever done something for. And I knew like, I was like, oh, I've got that right. And I then put it together, put it out. And yeah, sure enough, over 1 million people watched it, which remains insane. And I think it was the most watched video in South Africa that week on all of YouTube.
Wow.
And
oh yeah. And
is that the nicest compliment you've ever had?
Yeah. Then Razzie Erasmus said, compliment to this man. He understand the game and very, very funny, which my brother did get printed for me on a T-shirt that Christmas.
That's glorious.
Really cute.
Yeah.
How cool.
Yeah. So that probably just stand as a high point.
It's like game recognizes game.
Yeah.
He's hacked my entire master plan. He's figured it all out.
For me, it's also that aspect where to be able to enchant the players, the coaches, and the fans all at the same time is such a unique skill. And to have done that to the great credit of, people either sharing the video of tribute you've done to them, or professional players giving you praise, and coaches that win multiple World Cups doing so. That's you're right up there for me alongside them in terms of the ability that these people have within their craft and field. So I think that's very cool.
Thank you. I've gone as red as the Vodafone logo. Thank you.
Vodafone red. We love that kind of red. It can stay. So when did you dip into the women's game?
I love the way you said it.
Yeah.
It was pretty much right after that video. It's pretty much right after that one of the World Cup final.
You were like, completed it, mate. Next challenge.
I remember when you messaged me, I think quite
Did I?
early on, and you said, I think there's going to be an interesting reaction to my video of the weekend, because it was when the men's and women's all played at the same time, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
And so there was men's game going on, and the Squidge was like, well, my video was the England-France game because it was just the best game of the weekend.
That's
And
exactly it. Yeah.
That's straightforward as it was. And I was just like, this is going to be... So I got a little bit of a heads up before it came out. And you could see there was that... It did an amazing thing to the reaction of the audience, I found, because there were some people just going, well, where's the... oh, it was good, actually, wasn't it? Oh, I did miss that game, and he's made some really good points, and actually maybe I should watch next time. Like
Well, Dupont looks different. Yeah. Yeah, no, it was literally, like, as you say, like, it was that 2026 Nations, and it was that game where, again, like, absolutely phenomenal game, like, late on, I think you were playing in it, where
was it?
like, in France...
Where Scazzy scores under the post?
Yeah. Amber Reid throws the offload, and that... Yeah, I forget Emily something. I forget her name. Tall woman, ponytail. Yeah. Her goes over.
Escapes me.
Yeah. Mo Hunt, I think it is. Yeah. No, goes over and scores the try. Like, absolutely brilliant game. And I just came out that weekend. I was like, well, the best game was the one, was that game, and that was the one I wanted to talk about. So I made the video on that. And very much like built off that. Like, I was always had it in my head, like, once I got past the World Cup, because I've done this big project, wanted to cover every team in the World Cup beforehand and talk about them all equally, like, talk about Namibia the same way you talk about the All Blacks and so on. And I wanted to do something on women's rugby afterwards. And I was always like, oh, what do I do? And it literally came that weekend. I was like, oh, you just do it exactly the same. You just do exactly the same as the men's game, but you don't talk about it any differently. And that's always been, I think, the approach since, is like trying to, if it were up to me, I'd like to do it more 50-50. But, there's a little bit of, now there's more, now there's two of us here trying to make sure we both, have a job. But like, just trying to approach it exactly the same.
It's funny, your outlook in 2020 in approaching that is the same as that interview of Alice Cooper on Rugby Special in 1991, where the reporter puts a microphone in her face and just says, well, it's as if you women are wanting to have the same sort of fun and do the same sort of thing as the men. And she just goes, well, quite right, it's the same game. And it's just like, it's exactly the same outlook.
So someone came up to you at the England, at the Ashton Gates game and said, I'd never watched women's rugby until I saw one of your videos.
Yeah.
I've been to every England home game this year.
Yeah.
Isn't that the ultimate anecdote that proves how important a contribution is that people who make content make to the game, that it's not an either or, but an and solution, that it requires great performances on the pitch, but also people packaging it up for different audiences on different platforms, not only in the written media, not only on radio, but also on YouTube, on Reddit, on TikTok.
This is it. It's conversation, isn't it? Right. It's the game itself is brilliant, but as we've seen countless times with the Women's Six Nations the last few years, like, it does add something when there's a huge crowd, and you do get more invested when there's a huge crowd, when people are talking about it. When you've got podcasts like this, and like all the other podcasts that popped up over the last few years since this around the women's game, it all adds so much. And also, if you know the players and you're invested, then you care more. Like, it's just one of those facts, right? And it's why people, you've got a British and Irish Lions tour coming up. It's why people will be invested in players from their own country coming through, because they've watched them since they were, young, and they know their personalities. And it adds so much. And it's one of these things that I think has been, for fans of the men's game who haven't necessarily watched much women's rugby, for one, grow up. But one of the other issues that like people do come back to is not knowing the players. And you're like, well, if you can help with that, and you can help, something this podcast has been brilliant for as well, not to, blow smoke up your ass.
But I think also your credibility massively helps the game. Like, this is,
Huge.
I suppose, one of my favourite things about, especially being on here and the people we get to speak to, is like your credibility was in the men's game, and actually by you dipping your toe in the women's game, what you've done for our game as well, by the work, like the quality of the work that you distribute as well. Because I think there'd be sometimes that people would skip women's rugby because like, oh no, this person hasn't done men's rugby very well. But actually because like, oh, he's done that really well, I want to see. They're almost looking at your work. It's not what it is. It's almost like a representation of you. Just happens to be that you're now doing women's rugby, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But at the same time, right, it's still just trying to shine a spotlight on rugby that exists without me. Like, I deserve very little credit here, I think. It's very much just like going, look over there. It's exactly the same. Like, it's the same game. And there are differences between the two, but they're they're small and they're negatable, and like I enjoy watching rugby, and it comes back to this thing of like, you know, not to keep going back to team movies, right? But like, it's like if someone that was into movies when, oh, I'm not going to watch that movie because it's about a woman, you know, or it's directed by a woman, like it would seem absurd, right? And so it's the same thing with rugby. Like, why is sport the only thing that we separate there? And people go, oh, I only watch men's rugby.
Yeah.
I'm preaching to the choir here, like,
yeah. No, we can't understand it either, but yeah. And your vibe finds your tribe as well, because actually, no, you know, not just through the content on the rugby, but actually some of the other arguments and things that you have stood up for, you know, which are really important around inclusion and other aspects around misogyny and the way people behave. Like, people have gone for you, going, hold on a minute, you're straying out of your lane here. And you have just ignored that, stayed true to your values on it, and I think that's been a really important part alongside it that have allowed people to understand actually who you are alongside the content. And I think that breeds loyalty as well. I think, which is great.
Thank you.
Okay, so now shall we talk about some rugby?
We probably should.
I mean, imagine.
Very self-indulgent.
Honda one-word review. As we near the end of the tournament, it's time for our one-word review brought to you by our good friends at Honda. You three have been tasked with each writing down your one-word review on your clipboard. It needs to reflect this weekend's action and your take on it. Katie, flip your clipboard around and show us what have you got over there.
Flip it.
It reads sublime. And then in brackets, Marlie Packer's boss. Okay, would you like to explain?
I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Just one word, sublime.
Sublime. I just thought, look, I really enjoyed England's attack. I thought it's the best I've seen it. There was some lovely moments, of some lovely interplay in terms of forwards out of position in the back line. But for me, Marlie Packer's, I think it was the second one, right to left to put Claude in, I think, was just absolutely, it was sublime. Like, you look at somebody who has to reinvent herself, who has to change the way she's playing and fit into a different style. And I just think to be able to go away, to do that, the accuracy, at pace, on the money, for me.
World class.
Yeah, world class, sublime.
Is this you saying sorry to her because she didn't make it into your team of the week?
Oh.
I'm not sure why I keep coming back. You asked me for my word. Doesn't say team of the week.
I will not stop roasting you, but it's lovely that you return anyway. Thank you very much. Sublime.
Thank you.
Katie Daly
Thank
McLean. Nicholas Aidan Heath, roll around.
Always full names.
I love it so much.
Mine's in Italian.
Wow.
And it says possibilità.
Possibilità.
Yeah.
What does it mean?
It's because I was heading to Parma.
All right, Mo.
I was heading to Parma slightly head in hands over the fact that there's not a whole lot of change and development that I could see within the Italian Six Nations squad. And I thought, are they going forward? Is there any change? Is there any hope for improvement? And then the team selection came out, and Sara Manini, 19-year-old at 12, with Rigoni on the bench, and Alia Bitonci, another 19-year-old, both played in the under-20s last year at 9, which allowed them to have Bea Rigoni on the bench, Sophia Stefan on the bench. They also had Sara Tunesi there, Scorbini, who's been probably their standout performer of the championship. Beatrice Capomaggi was there. They had a bench. And the two 19-year-olds played really, really well. And it wasn't just because they've got an eye on Wales next time. They want to actually start seeing these players have a go. I had a moment pitch side while Bea was warming up, and I just said a cheeky little ciao Bea, and I said, so we exchanged a couple of words, and then I said, so how are you feeling about being 23? I said, are you angry? It's okay to be angry, because you want to get a little steer as a commentator, so that, well, here comes Bea Rigoni, and I think she's a little bit upset this week. That whatever. I
thought you just made that stuff up.
And no, I know. Oh. And she said, hey, it's good for her, it's good for me. And I was like, that's great. She said, we need to look at the new people. So it's good for her. I think it's good for me. And it proved to be. And now they lost that game through a couple of last silly scores at the end. And that was that. But they were in that game, and their bench came on and made a difference. 100%. And there is now, for me, hope and possibility that Italian rugby will keep moving forward with that women's team in a way that I thought it was just going to tragically stagnate.
And that's the thing about Italy having this bench, right? And looking to bring these new players in. And obviously Fabio Roselli coming in as their head coach before the tournament. And I think he flew massively under the radar. I think all the talk on that front was about Sean Lynn with Wales. And I think Fabio Roselli was a really, really smart appointment.
And I got a little link from one of the players who shall remain nameless, who just went, it's good. He knows his rugby. We didn't really like the other guy. That was not Bea Rigoni, by the way, because I did speak to her, but someone else told me that. And so actually that is obviously positive.
Yeah.
That's a change in a squad's outlook.
Yeah. And he obviously had a history of Zebre in the URC, in the men's side of the game. But the thing that really recommended him, I think, was the style of play he brought to Zebre, right? Which was very much Zebre before that were the basement boys in the URC. They lost basically every game, but they were basically set up to keep the score down. And they had a decent pack, and that's what they looked to do. And then Roselli comes in, and his whole approach was, well, we could be looking to keep the score down, or we could be going, we can try bonus points. You get 1 point on the table if you go for that. So the entire game plan became about scoring 4 tries every game. And sometimes the opposition score 3, and that's enough to win the game. Yeah. And sometimes you won't, and you walk away with 1 point or maybe 2. Yeah. And that Italian backline is so set up to play in that style. You look at Sony Minuzzi, you look at Muzzo, you look at Dianca, they are all ballers. And even as you say, like the new players that are coming in all clearly have that DNA blooded into them. And so he was such a smart appointment. And he came in and he's brought that style to them. And there is so much more freedom to how they're playing. And you look at that try Muzzo scored at the weekend, where the way they are playing out the back, and a year ago they would have kept that tight. They would have kept driving and driving and driving. And instead they run this lovely little pattern with the kind of, player popping out the back, and Maddie throws a lovely ball and Muzzo goes over in the corner. And it's that evolution. And we're seeing more and more of their game change week on week. And he's adding little bits in. And that game against England, they played, I guess, the philosophy he wanted to bring, but didn't have the accuracy, didn't have the detail. And just little things like, again, the way they play out the 22, the way they're using their backs more. We saw a lot of that against Scotland in particular. But even little things, when you look at that game at the weekend against France, they've got so much better at. It's a tiny detail, but it makes a lot of difference. Dragging extra players into the ruck when they get within 5 meters of the line, and just driving in on an angle, coming in straight, then driving in on an angle to knock a player off and not allow them to fold around to the other side of the ruck properly, or just pinning someone on the floor. And there's so much that little detail they've added to the game, as well as the maul, improving so much. And it's made such a difference to them. Like, I think he's done such a smart job of going, instead of, okay, here's everything I want to do. It's week on week. He's adding a little bit. And they've got better game on game this tournament.
And it's interesting. I bumped into him at the Six Nations launch and he said, yeah, look, I got the job in December. I started in January. I'm beginning to get to know this group. It's really interesting. They're challenging me already in different ways. Lots of the things that we're used to hearing men's coaches when they come into the women's game say. And you watch like John Mitchell, who still is a sort of fairly stoic Kiwi at heart, but is popping up in the background of TikToks and possibly living his best life quite quietly in that environment.
So good.
And Fabio Roselli said last week, off the back of the game against Scotland, he said, "I've fallen in love with this group."
Oh.
And if you sort of take that element that male coaches get in those environments, and it's not a stoic John Mitchell. It's a classically passionate Latin Italian man. He's all in. He's having a great time, and the players are beginning to reflect that. It's really early days, I think, with them. But I wonder whether this could be, a good marriage.
Yeah. So put on your Roselli hat. How does he elevate in the final round?
Yeah.
What is the little bit on top that he does now for that final flourish at home on Sunday?
I think a lot of it is adding more and more backs plays, adding more and more you can do with this team. And you wonder whether they keep like some Manini and Son in, and allow them to rotate the team a little bit more, because they worked.
Yeah.
And
I would actually consider putting Manini alongside Rigoni.
Oh, yeah.
Partly because AT Kappa Michaela Sillery got 3 penalties against her last week. Croc roll, neck roll, and a headshot. It's just like, you're one of the most experienced players on the team. Could you maybe behave? So, yeah, or either that or she's got to go in and right some wrongs. But I
think it got the most out of Veronica Madio as well. I think having someone, and as a 10, sometimes having someone very direct to play alongside you rather than another ball player can bring a different dimension out of you.
I think it was definitely, I totally agree. That was the best we've seen her play for Italy. And like you say, the bits where she got to play away from the line, because we're so used to Italy playing at the line. Everything's high risk, high reward. It comes off somebody's chest, especially when they get into the 22. Whereas, like you say, that ability just to give her a bit more time, give her an extra beat to get a ball in her hand. She's always had the skill set to do it. I just don't think they've ever had a plan that allows her to show it.
You have not escaped your one-word review, Robbie. We're still in the Honda one-word review section of the show. So here we go.
I have gone for rugby. And
sorry?
Obviously, it's quite self-explanatory. But I think if you sum up, I think Ireland and England as the two teams that stood out this weekend, both really very good. They were complete all-court performances. Like, they had everything going for them. It was scrum, it was line-out, it was attacking, it was backs, it was like every aspect of the game, breakdown, whatever you want to throw out, it was all there. It was like the complete package of rugby, both England and Ireland, I thought, really brought that together. And as one word to encapsulate it, I think that word is very much rugby, with apologies to Good and Scaz.
Oh, I see what you did there.
It's also good you didn't write package.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Though
So
I could
rugby
have.
was
I
it.
would have had to deliver it in Derbyshire, if so.
Yeah. The two of you are talking about different packages, but okay.
I'm lost again.
Yeah, we're going to leave this here now. Thank you very much. Some excellent words there to round up our weekend's action. Thank you so much to our friends at Honda, who in partnership with Telegraph Media Group are relaunching their Rugby Legacy Fund to reward girls and women's clubs in the UK. 15 clubs up and down the country will receive funding to supercharge their season. Up to 5 clubs stand to receive a reward of £3,000. So to find out more or to apply on behalf of a club, search Honda Rugby Legacy Fund.
And the articles on that website were written by me.
Oh,
Look
at that.
Yeah, did that in February.
Close the loop there.
There we go.
So we met possibly the best fan of all time outside of you, Squidge, at the game in Leicester on Saturday. She had glitter. She had bedazzled, I don't know how it was stuck onto her skin. She also had one of those cycling sunglasses that looks like a visor, like a blue one that wraps around your face. She had a Warriors, club side Warriors flag that she held aloft for an entire 7.5-minute interview, didn't ever put it down once. And I couldn't understand a lot of what she said, but she did give Hannah Bottoman the best motivational talk, which I then also showed Hannah Bottoman. So shout out to the Warriors girls that I spoke to at Mattioli Woods, Welford Road. Can you please slide into our DM so that we can also just properly credit you in the amazing content that you delivered? Great performance this weekend by Hannah Bottoman. Great performance by everyone referencing chinos. And every week we discuss the 10s as well, Katie Daly-McLean. Speaking of great performances,
It's because they're so important.
Holly Aitchison heard us. She heard us.
She did.
She heard you, and she was like, do you know what? I'm going to take my opportunity in the 10 shirt, get that tee out of hand, all over the park.
Yeah, no, she was very good, wasn't she? I thought she needed to be, if I'm honest. I thought, like, Zoe's gone really well throughout the opening 3 rounds, especially against Wales. Zoe, I thought, was immaculate in terms of the way she played. Obviously, we know she's a really good goal kicker. Holly was just really balanced. She has an ease about her, which I really enjoy. Like, nothing looks like she's really trying. I thought her kicking game especially just looked very easy. It looked effortless. I thought there's a really nice balance in and that's what I hadn't seen from England, to be honest. That bit where we've seen them run the ball a lot this year, and then we've seen them X out the 22, but that kind of between both 10s where they just would kick the ball because actually they'll just run out of options. So, like, you know, we're quite happy we're going to put a good kick in, we'll go stress your line out, or we'll go squeeze in D, because their D was very good, wasn't it? They got high, they looked comfortable, and I just thought there's a couple of moments where I was like, that's what I would have done.
Classy
Not that
decision.
I judged the 10s on what I would have done.
Classy decision making.
It was
Yeah.
like, and it was just like decision making when you're like, actually, she just looks in her groove. Because I think sometimes as a 10, if you don't feel in your groove, you go back to default, which for England will be just moving the ball along. Actually, she was like, no, I've seen the space, I'm going to execute that, and she did. And I thought, and then her goal kicking was brilliant. You know, I have been a big critic of Hull's goal kicking. I think, like, especially when you keep putting yourself out there, which is super brave, especially last Six Nations. Like, it wasn't going particularly well, and she kept going and going again. Where you think, actually, you could give that tee to somebody else. I thought it was really, really nice, and it must have been really sweet for her to kick as well as she did.
And then she got the wrestling belt afterwards, which we know from digging into the topic with Armo previously, that means that she was the coach's or the team's player of the game.
Nice.
Ah, yes. I mean, the fact that Zoe Harrison came back from that period out of injury and was playing so well for the season for Saracens, then has gone into the England shirt, knowing the sort of pressure, knowing how long that Holly had that shirt, performing so well. I know there's a couple of close journalists I work with, and we are in fierce debates constantly over who should be the England 10. And it's really interesting. Arguments from some, I think Zoe Harrison's definitely the one. Well, I'm not sure. I think Holly's it. And then, what you want is that pushing. And Zoe has been playing really well. And then Holly, obviously sensing that, had to go in and put a real marker down herself. And I really, really think she did. I thought she was absolutely outstanding. And what a great luxury to have.
Yeah.
But I think that sevens experience for me somewhere still plays a part. I think she just sees a little bit of extra time in that 10 role with the different options that are available to her. And maybe because she's now been in that role enough for England, she also just knows where she sits and what those options are to her.
For me, it's her hand speed. I think she's got amazing pass catch.
Yeah.
I think the ability to get ball in your hands and out your hands as a 10 is what creates more space on the edge. I think Zoe's got a much longer kicking game. And if you want to play it tactically, where you want to push people deep and you want to pressure them, probably Zoe has that. But in terms of Holly's ball speed, I don't think there's anybody better in the women's game in the moment than her.
She's like a membrane that the entire team runs through, more than like a player who's necessarily... I think instead of doing things herself, she's adding value to those around her,
Yeah.
Instead of like, oh, look at what she's done. It's like, oh, she's made that carry 10% better for the way she's got the ball in and out of hands and got it to them. She's like so crisp.
Yeah.
Are you team Aitchison or team Harrison?
Oh, it's hard, isn't it? Or Roland as well,
Yeah.
also there. Because I think ultimately you're talking about, all the journalists and the fans having the debate. Ultimately, I don't think John Mitchell cares at all because he has this sorted and he can pick on a week-by-week basis and on an opposition basis.
Yeah, he can.
And I think that becomes the issue is like, how Scotland defend. The best player for that situation is Ollie Aitchison. And you've got all of these kind of landing in those parts there together, and you've got players blooded in all those key positions. You don't have a situation.
So I was just going to say, I think on that as well, though, I think John Mitchell's biggest issue at the moment is being able to make them changes now, but then not have the wheels fall off. So I think, like, against England were brilliant. I don't think the bench came on. I think there was so much change with so many different personalities wanting to do different things. I think, if anything, that was probably England's detriment at the weekend.
Yeah. I'm finding replacements in any number of rugby games these days go one of two ways.
Yeah.
It's either really great impact and keeps the team there. It did with Italy at the weekend.
Yeah.
But it's almost becoming my stock phrase now between around 55 and 65 minutes. As okay, which way is this going to go? Is this going to ruin the great game we had and be bitty as hell because everyone's doing mad shit?
Scatter.
Or
Yeah.
are we all on the same page? Bang, look at the impact. Bang,
Alignment.
look at the performance.
Yeah.
And it goes up. And the same teams and even the same personnel can be both different things week to week.
Because this is the thing, isn't it? You mentioned the starting team, but like I think the starting team you've got an idea of loosely, but who is that bench? Like who is England's best bench? Who are the players that make an impact most when they come on? And like Marlie Pack was brilliant, but is she best used in that 20 shirt rather than 7? Like you've got a bunch of those debates of,
or do you go 6-2 and have her as a 21 so that you can then still have
Sarah
other
Beckett, whoever
options?
comes in on the bench.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like that becomes the debate now. It's like you've got plenty of people contesting for that. Those first 15. Who takes the next 8?
Yeah.
Now, on the topic of players that have sevens experience and the standing them in good stead, Marlie Packer, and the role that she's playing, 50th try on the weekend, captained when Zoe went off. How did she fare? First time since round 1 against Italy? Robbie?
Yeah, I thought she was very, very good. And back to herself, I think there is something in giving Sadia Cabello a run, and because Cabello is so good as well. And I think, again, I've never met her, but my impression I get is that Marlie Packer plays her best when she is angry, and you give her something to be pissed off about, like, Cabello taking that starting shirt off her and having a point to prove, and we get a performance like that out of her. And there is something in the way they're using her. I think it's very smart as well. Again, there's like, you look at the try, McDonald's second try, which was like such a clean example of how they're playing, of the ball getting out to one touchline and they set perfectly into shape. And again, it's Aitchison gets it straight out, like as you said, straight through the hands onto this kind of 4-pod they've started using, which is really smart kind of innovation the Springbok men brought in last year, where you've got 4 forwards in a very straight line. It's very hard to tell who they're going to carry into. Get onto the furthest out kind of Scottish forward. So then they work it wide and they're only attacking against Scottish backs. And once they get out there, they then run a lovely, wrapping shape. Kildone gets into the wide channel. Scotland go, oh my God, the best player in the world's got the ball out wide. What do we do? And it opens up this space as well. You then, get the ball into Marlie Packer's hands. And this is where she's being used really smartly, is you put her in that wide channel where, one, if Kildone did carry herself, she's there to clear out. She can do it on her own. You keep those backs on their feet. But also, she can then deliver the pass that she does, as you mentioned, sublime pass that then puts, Claudia McDonald over eventually.
Yeah, I think Marlie knows the point she has to prove. England fans, John Mitchell and others know exactly what Marlie's brought to the table. But that added pressure now of Sadia there, obviously Zoe's playing 6. You could move to a 60-minute moment where Zoe moves into the row, and therefore you can bring on other back rowers, which is, I think, how that kind of 6-2 bench split could work if you needed that. But I think Marlie knows she's in a battle for those positions, and she needed. I felt at the weekend it needed to be an audition type performance to go, don't you dare count me out of your 32-player squad for that World Cup.
And I think, speaking to her, I think that's exactly how she felt. I don't think she felt Italy was a true reflection of where she currently is, and actually for something like Marlie to be judged on that, knocked her.
Yeah,
it was like, oh, one of those, I need to go. And I think now, coming off and speaking to her after it, I think regardless of what happens at the weekend, almost she's a much happier beast because of what she's put out there, and rightly so, right? Like, I think that's all you can do, regardless of whether John Mitchell selects her or not. You can only control what you control. And your 50th try, you get to be captain. You throw 2 lovely passes, set up a couple of tries, as well as all the other bits she did around the work. I think she was top tackler in there as well. A couple of turnovers. It wasn't a bad day at the office.
Yeah.
She looked absolutely elated. She looked like she was walking on air.
Great.
After that game. It was really interesting to see how much lighter she looked.
Yeah. But what a roller coaster! You're England captain, then you're told at the start of the year that's probably going to be taken off you, and then all of a sudden you start to feel, the weight of your experience almost dragging you down because these other younger guns are coming into the side and performing well. So, fair play to her. It's hard to go out there and make sure you do nail that kind of performance with all of that going on. So, yeah, a lot of time for Miles. Glad she did it for herself more than anything else.
One of my favourite bits of content to come out over the last week, why are you smiling, Katie Daly McLean, was actually you on that other pod that you do, speaking to Phil Vickery about Sarah Byrne.
Oh, yeah. What a lovely guy.
That was so good.
Oh, my God, what a lovely guy. He was my favourite one that we've done today.
Yeah.
So genuine, sorry. I really liked him.
He was great. And he said, I prefer watching women's rugby. I think it's more genuine and authentic. And he said the thought of Sarah Byrne not starting in an England shirt a few years ago and how she has come on is unbelievable against the tired defence. I think she inspired me. When she came on the women's rugby scene, I thought, this is serious. Which is the ultimate compliment from someone who has done his time in the front row there. And the front row and the scrum, Robbie, you have said, is so crucial for this England-France game specifically.
Yeah, well, it's the one area where France have been completely on top, right? It's been like their real weapon has been the scrum. They've marmalised people there. Yeah. And so it's the one area, I think, in past years where broadly, by 60 minutes, England are on top, but the scrum has been the one area where that hasn't been the case. And you've got, Rose Bernardo doing a Batman impression with a full mask and absolutely back to her best, fully out the back cave, smashing people like it is the streets of Gotham at night. And
Asia Kalfawi coming back in.
Yeah. It's made a huge difference.
Who's, an absolute demon in the loose. Yeah. And has come back in, which is great. But, they're now going to be without Roman Meneghet and Serafina Kamba. That news has come this week that they're out injured. I'm hoping for Roman Meneghet it's not a return of the concussion symptoms that have kept her out for 4 months. There wasn't a detail on that report, but obviously no one wants that. Hope she can look after herself. Serafina Kamba has been a brilliant open side, absolutely terrorising anybody that came near her. So it's going to be interesting, those little tweaks, because Escudero went to the bench to make way for Meneghet at 6 last week. So I imagine she'll be back up there, but they've got a little bit more tweaking to do there. Tayani Feleau seems to just be born for that France number 8 shirt now.
Yeah.
But sorry, jumped in.
No, absolutely. Like, and all of that, completely agreed. Like, it's just that if you're one of the other 5 teams in the Six Nations, right, and you're looking, where can we target England? All of them are areas in which, where can we get closest to England's level? France's scrum is the one area, I think, where one team can go, no, we can get completely on top here. Like, we can build a platform to, if we're going to win this game, it comes through the scrum. And I think that becomes the basis of, if France are to win, it comes off the back of that, I think. And again, the chance of France winning don't feel strong, but like, that is their best way into the game. And it is the one thing that any of these teams in the Six Nations, I think, has definitively, you can argue Ireland's kicking game perhaps, but like, I think definitively, it's not definitive even then, is it? Like, there's a good chance that, but they're going to force England to have to front up and England to really go like, no, we have to bring our A game here and we have to put like our best scrummaging front row out. We have to try and like give everything on at least the first few balls. Like, they need to really attack that front row.
The other thing on the scrum, I think we know French mentality is so important and the start's so important, but you think with the goal kicker they now have, like, she is kicking so well. So you think early doors, bit of a scrum, you get a kickable penalty. France could quite easily start to build a score, whereas I think, like you say, they've had decent goal kickers, but probably not with the percentage and the accuracy and I suppose the braveness to go and say, look, give it to me, I want to have a shot at this. I think that potentially gives France a bit more of an opportunity to do something they haven't done before and get ahead.
It was their first decision second half in that tight game against Italy was to knock over 3 points. And France have scored 6 penalties. I think Scotland have had 2. Nobody else has bothered with the kick at the sticks because Morgane Bourgeois' percentage has been so high. She's been pretty dead-eye. She actually missed 1 or 2 at the weekend, and that was quite rare. But I think it's a massive question of England's discipline. We're cock of the walk, we're at home, but actually, no, you're offside, no, careful, you've gone off your feet, no, whatever. A couple of those from inside the 10-metre line, Morgane Bourgeois got the ability to knock those over, and it is an evolution part of the game management side of the women's game that is probably the last train to arrive in the station, just based on the overall talent and distance of place kickers. So this is good. That for me, I think, is a little ace that France can play here. And it's almost as if during this championship, they've just been going, okay, Morgane, keep getting comfortable because we know the game, we're going to really need this.
I think Bourgeois has quietly been the non-England player of the championship for me. Either way for as well, but like, I think she's been phenomenal. Like, goal kicking has been huge. You say, like, France are the only team consistently taking the points, and that adds up slowly. And there've been some of those decisions, I think, particularly against Scotland, where you could question whether they should. But it very much feels like what they've gone like, no, we've got a quality goal kicker. We're gonna like death by 1,000 cuts teams. And they won't get that many opportunities against England.
Top point scorer. Sorry, go on.
No.
Top point scorer in the Elite 1. The Elite 1 in France by a country mile. Like, she's on 190. Second place, 86.
Wow. But on your goal kicking as well, it's really important that your team like buys into that mould. So like, people might be like, well, why are they doing it against Scotland? But when you need to do it, to know everybody's like on a line to be like, no, look, this is what we do, doesn't then matter about the game, because that's what we've done all tournament. So like, we've just brought it out of our pocket for Scotland or for England, sorry, and you're like, oh gosh, it's now on me. You're like, no, this is my role. Doesn't matter who we are. This is part of the style of play. So actually, it's just another goal kick now. I think it is. It's smart.
She just feels like the second coming of Jessie Toumoulier. Like Jessie Toumoulier, if you will. Like,
I've not made that connection, but I love that.
That's a really nice segue into the other person who's kicking we need to talk about. Just the swagger and the drop kick glamour. I mean, this is the thing. This is the... if you are not even remotely sure whether you like rugby, there's nothing like a drop kick out of absolutely nowhere. Just ping, 3 points, and it's like the angels are singing. Isn't that the ultimate recruitment tool outside of a Squidge Rugby video?
I think way above that. A Pauline Bourdon-Sansus drop goal. Like, my favourite thing in the world, or two of my favourite things in the world put together. Again, Pauline Bourdon-Sansus is one of my favourite players, like, out there. I think the 2 Toulouse scrum halves are just my favourite players to watch in the world. They're phenomenal. One of the interesting things about Pauline Bourdon-Sansus this year is she's done the thing that Antoine Dupont, her male counterpart at Toulouse and France, has done, where he was the best, men's player in the world. And he'd added so much to his game, and he'd become this very complete attacking player. And then you go, well, where do we go from here? and he added this incredible like defensive game and this breakdown work. And Bourdon Sansus this year has done that, you know, and the two of them are friends. Like that, you know, there's plenty of photos of the two of them like hanging out there, and it feels like she's gone down that mold. And the way she's adapted her defense, the way she's flying out the line almost as an extra center and really getting up in players' faces, and sometimes cutting off passes, sometimes just looking to like disrupt plays and cut things off at source. Almost in that like Faf de Klerk, she's a kind of men's example.
Yeah, it's really she's of that mold. When you're looking to make a pass, you're like, how many of you are there?
Yeah. And I think was it one of the games early on, she won a turnover as well. And you're seeing her kind of develop an all-round game because she's clearly gone like, well, I've got everything I can possibly do in attack. Like,
how golden that Pauline Bourdon-Sansus and Antoine Dupont both play at Toulouse.
I know. I know.
And you said they mates.
Yeah. I mean, they've hung out before. There was a photo of them like at a bar together with Laurie Sansus as well. He's all, you know, Sansus, Bourdon-Sansus, who Sansus,
Lord Sansus, yeah.
Who's
now having their baby.
Yeah.
Nice.
You know, who obviously was at Toulouse before as well. Like, there's the three of them hanging out at a bar somewhere in Toulouse.
The two Toulouse scrum halves in a relationship, fighting for the same club and national shirt is just
because I always had it in my head they were like desperate rivals. And
finding
out they've been like secretly, desperately in love is a teen movie in itself.
Another one.
The women's game is absolutely brimming with teen movies waiting to be made. Come on, Squidge. What are you waiting for? Someone just get this guy a development budget. Okay, so Conti question of the week. Thank you so much to Continental Tires for returning after the absolute carnage that was the Conti question of the week last week. The official tyre partner to England Rugby. The Conti question of the week is from Alana Torley. What player would you take from the Scotland team to add to the England team? Shall we start with Katie Daly-McLean? Which Scotland player would you add to the England team? And then let's also branch this out into
Evie
Ireland
Gallagher.
and Wales. Whoa, I haven't even finished my team. Sorry. Evie Gallagher.
Yeah.
Scotland player pulled up
Holly
into
Cunningham.
Ooh, that's a rogue shout. I like it. Yeah. I think it's Sarah Bonner possibly. You know, an extra lock option.
Bonds.
Yeah. Emma Orr as well. You know.
Oh, yeah. Good one.
Emma Orr's class.
Ireland.
Aoife Wafer.
Wafer, yeah.
Wales.
Alex
Gwen
Callender.
Pyrrhus.
Oh, good shout.
Gwen Pyrrhus.
Okay.
Katie Powell.
Yeah, Alex Callender.
Al
Oh, yeah,
Cal.
of course, Al Cal.
That's a good one.
I feel like a fool.
France. Nick.
Mane Feleau or Madisu Fall. I'll go Feleau.
Yeah, Foul.
Morgan Bourgeois.
Italy.
Oh, Tunasi.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Scorbini.
Oh, Scubby, yeah.
Yeah.
Scorbini.
Yeah, Scorbini.
Yeah, Scorbini for me.
How
Okay.
come you didn't answer this?
I am the person facilitating.
Okay.
Yes, I'm just a conductor here. I'm not the orchestra. Okay, Cork Star wants to know, was that Dame Emily Scarrett getting lifted for a kick receipt v Scotland? And then Hannah Bottoman with the picture of Scazzy. Did you
Fair
see?
play bot, because Scazzy is not light. And
So
she's
there-
not as springy as she used to be either. So Bots has done it. Like, it's got to be from like a chest press, really.
I did
Too
not
far.
say that, Scazzy. That's what she
Love
said. Hannah Bottoman reposted the screenshot of her lifting Scazzy above her head and said, dreams do come true.
Has anyone been playing the Dirty Dancing music? Do it. No.
Oh, now
Oh.
that's a teen movie. That's a great one. Ellis Rourke wants to know what position in the forward pack would suit you the most, Katie Daly-McLean. If you had to be a forward, which
Probably
one?
hooker.
Oh yeah, I could actually see that. Yeah, dinky dinky dink. Yeah,
Lana Skeldon style goal kicking.
Yeah,
hooker.
100%. Less scrummaging, more goal kicking.
goal kicking. Okay, I love that for us. This week's Conti question of the week was brought to you by Continental Tires, proud supporters of girls rugby. Their Love Rugby program provides under 12s the chance to play at rugby festivals and showcases up and down the country. These are things we love to see. On the Good, the Scaz and the Rugby notice board, just one thing, only one item. Saturday was the last time our Meg will play a home fixture at Matty Woods, Welford Road in Leicester. Tan, tan, tan. man. Because she is moving to my neighborhood. She is coming to Ealing, which is in West London, where Trailfinders.
Is the rumour true she's renting a room for you?
No, she is not, because I have 4 cat children and the entire house is taken up by kitty cats, and Joey is not welcome to come play. Sorry.
Okay, cool.
So congratulations to our Meg.
Yeah, big news.
Moving to London.
Yeah, a big
Sold
loss.
out.
A big loss for Tigers is, I think, the big part of that headline for me. So yeah, how their midfield will look when Meg Jones was their game changer almost every game she played.
Yeah.
So it's a big loss for Tigers, but yeah, what a boom for Trailfinders, who were scoring tries for fun last season. Just need to tighten up at the back a bit, but I can just see them scoring more, and they could be a good tip for a little top 4 place next season, I think.
Here we go, Ealing. Now on to not so Saturday, but very much super weekend for the final round of the Women's
Whoop, whoop
Six
weekend.
Nations. Whoop, whoop. Predictions,
Well, good
who
weekend.
and by how many? Scotland, Ireland at the Hive Stadium. Ife player of the match against Wales, 24 carries, 173 metres.
Oh,
They're
More
back
than
3 numbers.
Yeah,
They're
they
like,
are.
That's
100%.
silly. What do you do? How do you stop her? And go, Robbie.
Tackle her.
you can try.
Sorry.
Yeah. The
mean-
realistic answer is probably you don't. Because the thing is, you probably end up overloading her and trying to mark her too heavily. At which point,
Katie Daly McLean is being meow, kitty catty over there
That's not true.
about Welsh defence. That's
I'm
what's
not.
happening.
I'm just
here.
saying what
Yeah.
everybody else was thinking.
got a
Okay.
solid
It's like word
reason.
association. What pops into your head?
Meow. That's what's popping into my head. Okay. please
yeah, no,
continue.
you probably can't. You know,
We have had paper thrown at me on the set.
I'm sorry, Robbie.
no, it's just like it's every part of a game. It's pretty complete, you know, and you're probably putting 2 players onto her, and you're probably allowing too many resources. So it becomes a case of Scotland have almost got to try and play their own game and just hope that she has a quiet game, which looks like, you know, only 18 carries and only 80 metres.
Ireland on the up, Scotland really battling. What is it that Scotland focuses on in this match at home to round out this campaign?
I hope Scotland are in a place where they can focus on on-field matters. Is some, something I'm a little aware of, and I hope that things are all right up there. And they've just got to have clarity for me. They've got to know where they're going at the right time. It's still at times just looks like some parts of it are working when other parts aren't. And I know this sounds very general and easy to say, but that is sort of how I feel. I don't feel like everybody's moving in the same direction at the same time. I just don't know if enough competition for places is allowing people an opportunity for I don't know. I don't mean to say mistakes to be punished, but for performances. Exactly, for jeopardy to behold.
Who and by how many at the Hive, Katie Daly McLean?
I think Ireland by 10.
Ireland by 10?
Ireland by 12, yeah.
I was going to say Ireland by 12, yeah. That
Okay.
ballpark.
Italy, Wales at Stadio Sergio Lanfranchi on Sunday at 11:30 UK time.
I'll be there.
Mm.
It's
Who-
Italy's, that one.
Italy's one.
Yeah.
By?
It depends where Wales are, because if they feel like they're starting to lose a grip on the game and it's the last end of term feeling, and they go, well, we're all quite happy that things are on the up now, but we're also done, then they could suddenly fall over and concede 20 points, I think. But I'll say I'm going to go Italy. I think Italy are beginning to get their tails up as well, which is probably an interesting meeting of the two. So I might go as bold as Italy by 15.
I was going to say 2 scores. I think Wales's D hasn't been great, but then Italy can also be loose and just give loose tries. And if a bouncing ball into Jazz Joyce's hands kind of levels it a little bit more. So I think somewhere between 10 and 14.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about Wales was that first 20 minutes when they were great and they were on top of Ireland, and they seemed to panic. They seemed to like, oh God, this is going well. What do we do now? You know, where do we go from here?
Almost
you know,
the fear of heights.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's like when you're about to hit your high score and you're like, oh, I can't make a mistake now. And you end up, dropping a T block down the side rather than the L block in Tetris. I'm doing it again. I apologize. and but it felt like that panic, and that makes me think perhaps even if Wales do start well, is that going to be an issue? Is there like a mental block that Sean Lynn needs to overcome as well from just how the last couple of years have gone? But you come back to the thing I was saying about Italy, right? I think they are good for 4 or 5 tries in pretty much every game they play. And do Wales have the ability to score 5 or 6 in them? I'm not sure at this juncture. So I think probably Italy by 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then England-France at Allianz Stadium in Twickenham at 4:45 on Saturday. The Grand Slam will be decided on this occasion. Nick, you've had a look at the stats, the average scores
I did.
that both these teams have put up over other teams in this championship.
Can I get my pad out?
Okay.
As long as you're quick.
Yeah. So England beat Italy by 33 points. France only beat them by 13. England beat Wales by 55. France only beat them by 30. England beat Ireland by 44 points. France beat them by 12. Big disparity there. England beat Scotland by 52 points. France only by 23. So that's a difference that England are outscoring France by 20, 15, 32 and 29. The average is 24. So that would suggest that England are 24 points better than the French.
Par.
Yeah, and I think home advantage, I think the way England have been playing, I think how they looked last week, and a loss of Menage and Okamba, I'm going England by 30, I'm afraid.
Whoa.
Ooh.
Yeah, I say afraid because I'm someone that likes a contest and I want the Six Nations to have jeopardy about the winner because I'm traditionalist like that. And it is currently the Women's Six Nations' toughest selling point year on year that there isn't jeopardy over the winner. We can't blame the RFU in England for having had a great programme that has put them that far ahead. But this is just my side note to say it's a tough one to sell on that. So
Looks at the scoreboard.
yeah, I think that'll be it.
England by 30?
No, I think less, 20 odd. I think if France can get their noses ahead, kick some penalties, it might stay closer for longer. And I think, like you've said about benches and packs, I think we've seen England run away with games at times for some of them scores. I don't think they'll run away. I just think they'll be better than France. So it's how much better they are.
England won by 21 points in France last year.
I think, France. No, I think England will probably be 30 odd points up at some time, then probably let a try or two in at the end.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think we're probably looking at, 20 odd, like 25, let's say.
Okay. Those are the predictions of our esteemed panelists. There has certainly been more rugby in the show than you will usually hear.
I
And
apologise.
She sounds so tired.
We might even
There was a lot more team movies though as well.
also,
was.
like Mean Girls got dropped in there and Boyhood. I mean, we went really deep. And we will go deep with maybe some rugby, I'm not sure. It's usually quite rogue. At the Cabbage Patch, Le Crunch, not with branch this time.
Oh, she didn't tell me that.
No, I'm not going to be feeding you, but we can have a drink. Don't forget to get your live show tickets for this weekend to see me and Katie Daly McLean at the Cabbage Patch, the Red Roses Patch, in fact. Link in description below. And if you have not joined our Blue Tits broadcast channel on Instagram, what have you been waiting for?
What is that?
It's okay.
Do I need to join it?
I joined.
Did you?
I didn't really know if I should have.
There was a lot of insight and inside jokes on there last week. I don't know if that's your bag.
Nah.
There's not a lot of rugby happening. I can warn you about that.
Question.
Make sure you bring your shirt. Sorry?
Oh, well, I had a question for Katie.
What?
Are you going to ask Gabby to say your name right?
No.
No. Okay.
What is Gabby
Katie
calling
Daly
me?
McLean.
McLean.
Gabby can say however she wants.
Okay. Like John McClane from Die Hard.
Ooh, yeah, he was cool.
Oh, wow. Okay. Would you like Scazzy to text her mate Gabby and just say, hey, Gabs, hope you're well. Just thought I'd send you a
Shut up,
voice
Elmo.
note. It's Katie Daly McLean.
Oh, it's a clipboard coming.
Even the South African can say it correctly. Okay, I'm going to stop being meow. Make sure you bring your signs and let's see you improving on our favourite one, who's the real tit, or our second favourite
Can I
one,
pick the answer?
the pick and mo. Yes, Katie Daly McLean. You need to get it onto the BBC. That's your task. We will see you at Allianz Stadium. Thank you so much, Robbie.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Squidge Rugby Owen, for joining
Oh,
us.
thank you for having me. No, it's been a delight, and thank you again to Simi Pam for not being available.
I like him. Bring him back.
There we go.
Bring him back.
Bring it back.
Bring him back.
Nick Heath, enjoy the continent.
Thank you very much.
Please send them our regards.
It's been a pleasure to be back. The catering in Italy, not quite as good as France. Your hearts bleed for me, I'm sure.
Totally.
Yeah, tough job. Katie Lady McLean, we will see you soon. Start thinking about your team of the week, so long, all right? We have been The Good, the Scaz, and the Rugby in partnership, as always, with Vodafone. The Good, the Scaz, and the Rugby is a folding pocket production produced by, have you met her? Shara Kilgallen.
Tits.